Brought to you by Penguin.
Wildwood, A Journey Through Trees, by Roger Deakin. Read by Roy Mcmillan. Introduction. For a year I travelled amphibiously about the country, swimming in the wild, literally immersing myself in the landscape and in the elements, in particular the primal element of water, in an attempt to discover for myself that third thing D.H. Lawrence puzzled about in his poem of that title. Water, he wrote, is something more than the sum of its parts, something more than 2 parts hydrogen and 1 of oxygen. In writing Waterlog, the account of my meanderings, swimming was a metaphor for what Keats called taking part in the existence of things. Now it seemed logical to plunge into what Edward Thomas called the 5th element, the element of wood. Swimming in the Helford River, where the oaks stretch out their branches level with the water to dip into it at high tide, or on Dartmoor, going against the current with the running salmon in the steeply wooded Dart, I realised the logic of Patrick Leigh Fermore's superb Between the Woods and the Water. In the woods there is a strong sense of immersion in the dancing shadow play of the leafy depths, and the rise and fall of the sap that proclaims the seasons is nothing less than a tide, and no less influenced by the moon. It is through trees that we see and hear the wind. Woodland people can tell the species of a tree from the sound it makes in the wind. If Waterlog was about the element of water, Wildwood is about the element of wood, as it exists in nature, in our souls, in our culture, and in our lives. To enter a wood is to pass into a different world in which we ourselves are transformed. It is no accident that in the comedies of Shakespeare people go into the greenwood to grow, learn, and change. It is where you travel to find yourself, often, paradoxically, by getting lost. Merlin sends the future King Arthur as a boy into the greenwood to fend for himself in The Sword in the Stone. There he falls asleep and dreams himself, like a chameleon, into the lives of the animals and the trees. In As You Like It, the banished Duke Senior goes to live in the forest of Arden like Robin Hood, and in A Midsummer Night's Dream the magical metamorphosis of the lovers takes place in a wood outside Athens that is quite obviously an English wood, full of the fairies and Robin Goodfellows of our folklore. Pinned on my study wall is a still from Truffaut's L'Enfant Sauvage. It shows Victor, the feral boy, clambering through the tangle of branches of the dense, deciduous woods of the Aveyron. The film remains one of my touchstones for thinking about our relations with the natural world, a reminder that we are not so far away as we like to think from our cousins, the gibbons, who swing like angels through the forest canopy at such headlong speed that they almost fly like the tropical birds they envy and emulate in the music of their marriage song at dawn in the treetops. To begin where I began, my mother's name was Wood. The third of my father's 3 Christian names was Greenwood, Alvan Marshall Greenwood, Deakin. My great-grandfather had the timber yard in Walsall, Woods of Walsall. So I am one of the Wood tribe, and although I have read Thomas Hardy's The Woodlanders many times over, the story of Marty South, Giles Winterbourne and Grace Melbury always moves me more than anything else I know. I am a woodlander. I have sap in my veins. My great-uncle on my father's side was Joseph Deakin, framed and imprisoned at the age of 20 by Lord Salisbury's government in 1892 as one of the Walsall anarchists. He became librarian at Parkhurst Prison on the Isle of Wight, where he continued his self-education with the help of William Morris, George Bernard Shaw, Edward Carpenter, Sidney and Beatrice Webb, and other early socialists. He was a true defender of the Greenwood spirit of democratic freedom, and I always think of him as belonging to the outlaw tradition of Robin Hood. In Suffolk, where I live, I have begun to coppice the wood I planted 20 years ago. It is now home to a family of foxes. Deer lie up in it, and this year I was proud to discover some discreetly set rabbit snares. I had my first poachers. The wood has come of age. An ancient green lane and a mile of old hedgerows surround my fields. When I first came to Suffolk 30 years ago, I found my Tudor...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?